Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be showing you how I draw lips. So the first thing you want to do is find the shapes. So the best advice I can give is looking at a lot of references, because you want to make sure that all the proportions are correct, and also when doing the first layer and putting down the shapes is to have your lines very light so it'll blend better in when you're shading. And usually the top lip is smaller than the bottom lip. Now you can see that I'm starting to shade in the lip, and there are certain ways not to do this and certain ways to do it. So I'm going to give you guys a couple examples. So for the first example, I am having my lines very far apart and pressing very hard. Now with the second example, I'm having my lines very close together and actually taking the time to fill it in, and that makes it so when I take my tissue, when I go to blend it all out, it looks a lot more smoother. So back to the drawing, we are shading it in right now, and this is where you really want to pay attention to where all the shadows and highlights are. So for the shadows, you want to press harder on your pencil, and for the highlights, you want to leave that part white. And like I said before, you should actually take the time and have your lines really close together, so when you go to blend it out, it doesn't look all messy, and there's a really big difference. And when shading in the lips, keep in mind that most of the time the lower lip is going to be lighter than the upper lip, because the light source will be hitting it more, because most of the time the light source is from above. If you guys want to see any more of my artwork, you guys can find me on Instagram, and if you want me to do any more realistic tutorials like this, please let me know in the comments down below. And if the drawing's just getting too dark, it's good to go over with a new eraser. I just dab it till it looks light enough, and that seems to help if the shadows are getting too dark. Now I am blending it out with a tissue. You also can use a blending stump, but I wouldn't recommend using your fingers because it gets kind of messy and it leaves oil on the paper. So now I just switched out my pencil, and I'm using a 2B pencil just to get my shadows more dark. And before I was using a HB mechanical pencil, and that's lighter than the 2B pencil, so that's why I use it to just make sure I get all the shadows in there to make it look more 3D. So now I am using a kneaded eraser for the highlights, and I just mold it down to a tiny little point and erase all the spots on the picture that I think needs to be highlighted, and also make sure you're paying attention to where all the highlights are in the reference. And most of the time it's going to be right above the Cupid's bow and anywhere you see it on the lips. And again, a lot of the highlights are going to be on the lower lip. So now I'm just switching out all my art supplies, really paying attention to where all the shadows and the highlights are in the reference, and just playing around with it till I am satisfied. And I encourage you guys to look at a lot of different references because there are many different shapes and ways you can place the highlights and shadows. And if you guys want to see any more tutorials like this, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!